May I have roll call, please?
Commissioners,
Here. Here.
Here. May I have the report regarding posting of the agenda, please?
The agenda for this meeting was posted on Wednesday, May 28th, 2014 on the bulletin board outside City Hall and on the city's website.
Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For the record, you have to today's date and time.
all right. First item of business, approval of minutes. We will begin with Wednesday, April 16, 2014. Are there any corrections, additions?
I think that's the one that I've missed, so I'll abstain. Or no, I'm
No,
sorry.
you were there. You were there.
It's the other
I was
one, right.
absent, and
I meant you. Sorry.
okay. So, are there any additions?
No, move to approve it.
Second.
Very good. Moving on to the minutes for Wednesday, May 7th. Are there any additions, corrections?
I think that's the one that I've...
That's the one that you need to...
So I will abstain from voting on those minutes.
And
We
you-
don't even...
We appreciate that. May I have a motion,
So
please?
moved.
Second.
Very good. Moving on. Do we have any cards of any speakers? Okay, then we will skip the oral communications. Zoning appeals. The first order of business was the 1229 Vista Superba, which I understand will be continued to the next regularly scheduled Planning Commission hearing of July 16, 2014. Is that correct?
Yeah, we are requesting that you continue it to July 16th, 2014 without further public notice.
Will do.
So moved.
Second.
We need a roll.
Planning Commissioners Historian,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Yesayan,
Yes.
and Chairperson Manukya.
Yes. Moving on to Planning Commission items. We have no old business. Moving straight through to new business. Use and Standards Variance Case Number PVAR 1406965. Location 102 North Glendale Avenue. The applicant is Integrity Property Management. And the staff will be represented by Milka Toledo. May we have the staff report, please?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. This case before you is located at 102 North Glendale Avenue. It's actually across the street from here at the what we used to call the Glendale Hotel. It is a historic building. It's located in the basement of that existing building. It is the continuation is what they're requesting of the existing wine storage facility that currently exists, and it's called the Cave Wine Storage in that basement. It is located in the C2 commercial zone. There was a previously existing variance that was granted back in 1999. It was a use and standards variance that was approved with conditions. At that time, it was also a renewal, and it was to continue the operation of that same wine storage facility and for not providing a required loading space that was required by code. And that's what they're here for today, the same items, because it was to expire 15 years after that approval. The site is 15,010 square feet. It consists of a 6-story mixed-use building, which includes the 7,622 square foot basement. Presently, it is a mixed-use building, which includes, again, the wine storage facility in the basement. There's commercial on the ground, on the street level, and then you have residential units above. They've been operating there since 1982, and no changes are proposed to the existing wine storage facility as they currently exist. They are proposing to continue operating exclusively as a wine storage facility. There are no sales of wine or other merchandise on the premises. There's no wine tasting parties. There are no meetings or social gatherings taking place. And again, the facility does not store the stock of retailers or wholesalers. This is strictly for private use. So if any of us want to go there and rent a locker for our wine, that would be the place that you would do that.
Or any other beverage?
To my understanding, it's just wine, but I will have the applicant address that comment. So again, it's for private users only. Staff is in support of the request to continue the operation. Staff was able to prepare draft findings for you. If there's any questions related to the findings, I'd be more than happy to address them unless you want me to go over them. That's in your staff report. And in terms of the conditions, there were no conditions actually, specific conditions related to the operation, with the exception of the hours of operation are to remain what was previously approved from closing from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. daily. And the police department stated that there were no issues, that the wine storage facility and it's involved in sale just is not involved, in the sale or distribution of any alcoholic beverages. They have no calls for service or problems at this location, and therefore they're supporting the approval of the renewal. At this time, that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions for staff, I am available.
Are there any questions for staff?
This is for another 15 years.
This time there was a condition in the last decision letter to have it approved for 15 years. At this time, staff did not include a condition for it to come back. It's basically at the discretion of the commission if you so wish to do that. The reason why staff did not include it because since there's no real on-site sales or service, it's really just the private lockers to store the wine. And staff opined, well, perhaps a renewal wasn't necessary. But again, that's up to the commission's discretion.
Very good.
I have a question. So if this time around when they put in their new application for the conditional use permit, they had to pay a fee, correct?
Well, it does not require conditional. This project would not.
The application fee.
Oh, correct.
How much was that?
It was like $12,000, I believe.
For the new renewal?
Yes. They have to come back. Every time they come back, they have to pay a new fee, the current fee.
Is that potentially why the staff thought
Good question.
perhaps that fee was exorbitant? They didn't want to impose undue.
It could potentially be one of the reasons why, in addition to the fact that, again, for the reasons I stated earlier, I don't believe they need an ABC license, if I'm correct at all, again, because they're not operating through any type of required license through the state. And for that reason, and since police didn't have any concerns and is in support of the continued operation, then once again, staff felt for those reasons, and also potentially the fact that every time you come back, you have to pay, well, again, at the time, the fee was $12,319. So if fees increases in 15, 20 years from now, they'll be subject to the new fees.
Thank you.
There's a minor, I think, a typo in this. It's which could pose a significant trouble. I think condition number 8 says hours should be open from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. daily.
I thought it said closed. Let me look at my conditions.
Oh, to be closed.
I said, yeah, the hours of operation shall be closed from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. daily.
So I read it wrong.
Which is the same condition that was included in the previous decision letter.
Okay.
Satisfied? Okay.
I have no further questions.
Should we hear from the applicant, or is anyone willing to make a motion?
But I think, the 15 years versus lifetime, I think we need to discuss that a little bit. I don't really believe in lifetime granting of any type of approval, because a lot of things could happen, even though this is no-brainer type of industry, the use. 15 years is a really long, ample time for this type of application. So I'm happy with that, but going beyond, giving beyond 15 years, I have a little reservation about that.
What's the precedent for going beyond for lifetime variances? Do we give indefinite variances?
Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, use variances run with the land. And typically, conditions imposed limiting the time of the variance, this type of variance, are usually ones that are agreed to by a particular property owner. And it can't be conditioned on a particular property owner. So whoever owns the property, run with the land. The response that the Commission and the public have is that if there's a nuisance situation, or if the use that is permitted by the variance morphs into something else, then your remedy is to set up a revocation hearing. So it's not that it is perpetual. If so long as this use that you're approving remains the use that you're approving. But if it morphs into something that creates a public nuisance or something that was not permitted specifically by this variance, your remedy, as I stated, is to set up a revocation hearing.
So the time limit is probably unique.
Time limit
for a variance
is unique,
usually
and
just
usually it would be
approve a variance.
You would approve the use variance, and it would run with the land. That's correct.
So you don't need a time limit for revocation, or
You do
People
not.
can do
that's
it
not
any-
a necessary.
Next week, there could be a hypothetical morphing of this use into something that involved sales and service of alcohol without the benefit of an ABC license or other permitting requirements of the city, and you could set up a revocation hearing.
As I understand it, the variance is there, just hanging in the air. If anything is done to violate it,
Right.
we can pull it.
Right.
Whether they need to come back in 3 years or 5 years or 15 years, that's on them. That it just gives us the right to review the process formally every so often. In this case, 15 years. But again, frankly, I don't see any problems with the 15-year. Taking off the 15-year requirement, certainly because it reduces some of their expenses.
Yeah. I agree.
So,
I just have one more question, and I don't have a problem with that now. What was it? Why was it that we had a time certain date expiration before on it, if it's not an issue?
It was the hearing officer at the time who decided to approve it that way. Before, it used to not be reviewed by the Planning Commission. By the way, the use variance was reviewed by the planning hearing officer.
okay.
And at that time, the hearing officer, Mr. Kraus, decided that that was the decision, a condition of approval of his decision.
I think he might have probably a similar thought process as probably I have, and that is that when you have a variance, that use is not allowed in the zone area. So to allow some sort of a variance, I think there needs to be, although there are conditions set and all that, that gives city or officials here chance to come back and review the use in that area. Maybe for for their zone changes or verifications or planning purposes. So that's why that was that's why where I was coming from in that fact that there shouldn't be really a perpetual or variance without a time period. I mean, I think we should be given a chance to take a look at that, time to time. And that's where I'm coming from. I have no problems. If you guys want to remove that, that's fine.
And I think, Commissioner Lee, the idea here is that time limit does not preclude the city of Glendale to go back and ask or require for the lack of a better word, a closer scrutiny at any given time in future in this arrangement. So,
Understood. But as long as they don't violate that. But the only time that there will be revoked or opportunity to revoke that use is if they violate the conditions. But as long as it's there, then if they want to stay there, if you want to do something else with the land or review use of that land for something else, we lose that opportunity because the use variance is there forever.
Well, I think we could still change if in the future we do a reevaluation of the zoning in that area. We could change the zoning the way it is. This variance would just run with it, and maybe they choose to do something else with the land.
But if they choose to that's their grandfather clause. They'll be there with that.
Yeah. So
you cannot force them.
I mean, what is do we have any other wine storage facilities in the city?
I'm not aware of any. I Googled it, and this is the one that came up, but I'm not aware if there was any other competitors out there.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Lee, let me maybe I can we have is the public is it open right now?
It's open. I can ask
I just have a question for the applicant. Just one quick one.
Hello.
Hi, sir. The property owner also owns the business of the wine storage?
Yes.
That's how it's set up?
Yes.
Thank you. Then you can be seated. Appreciate it.
May I make a couple comments?
Of course.
Of course.
Please identify yourself, sir.
My name is Randy Planiger. I'm with Integrity Property Management Company. I'm also the general partner currently of the building. And a couple notes. I think you had asked about it being a variance, I think, for the use. I don't think it's a variance for the use. I think it's for just allowing for the loading zone or exemption.
No, it is a use variance because a wine storage facility is not allowed in the C2 zone.
Yeah.
So you have the use variance is one standard, that the use is what you're violating in this case. And two would be the standards variance, which is for the lack of not providing the loading
I
space.
see. Okay.
And sorry, go ahead.
Certainly, I would like to say that the wine storage has been there for 32 years now, and we have had a very good history as far as not being a nuisance with the city and complying with the city requirements. In addition, as far as the cost was concerned, in addition to the $12,300 we had to pay, there's also additional costs of doing the prep work and doing all the surveying, and that adds another $5,000. So overall, it became like $17,000, $18,000 for this variance hearing. Certainly, it is an extreme amount, but certainly.
And as far as wine storages, there aren't that many in the region.
I think actually there might be one in Glendale. I think at the old Beacons building,
Which
On Central Avenue.
and
Oh, on
there's
Central,
another
is
one
there?
in Pasadena also.
Okay.
I think.
I agree with you. You're a good business, and then you could be there another 50 years. Just that I do not feel comfortable, with the giving variance that has no time limit. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
If I may just highlight one more condition, number 5, it also states that any expansion or modification to the facility or the use which intensifies the variance shall require a new variance application. So they would have to come before you once again. And that could constitute additional floor area, increase in hours of operation, or any changes to the operation of the business, or any physical changes as determined by the director.
Look, to me, I'm okay with no time limit, but if it's something that you think will float your boat, I would go with 20 years if it's acceptable to everybody else and find out how this thing works. I'm all right either way.
I personally would like to just lift it. I don't think it's fair to have this wine storage place have a limitation, but allow others to not have the same thing. It's not a use that has, I don't see any negative impact. There's no one's drinking out of it. It's just storage. And it's using up a basement that otherwise wouldn't probably be used for anything else. So I can't see any harm of it.
I tend to agree with Commissioner Yasayan. The bottom line is, what bothers me is a process, a bureaucratic process costing a businessman nearly, $15,000, $16,000, $17,000 when we can avoid it. We got them on the hook by virtue of the variance. If they do anything that goes outside the four corners of the various conditions, we got them. If they want to increase the intensity or the scope of their business, we got them. I don't see them causing that much problem to begin with, and if I can help someone by a small amount, why not? So, with that,
If somebody's ready to make a motion, let's go forward. Let's not
dilly-dally.
belabor.
Okay. Do I need to do the arts? No. So I move that upon review and consideration of all materials and exhibits of current record relative to variance case number PVAR 1406965 located at 102 North Glendale Avenue, and after having conducted a public hearing on said matter, that the Planning Commission hereby approves the variance PVAR 1406965 in accordance with the findings set forth in the staff report.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Planning Commissioners Astorian.
Yes.
Lee.
No.
Yesayan.
Yes.
Chairperson Manukian.
Yes. Very good. Moving right along. Community Development Department's updates. Do we have any?
The only update I would have is to remind the Commission, in light of yesterday's election, that all commissioners serve until their appointment, until the replacement is appointed and sworn in.
Very good. So the present complement of commissioners stands until our council member-elect appoints her representative.
Yes.
Very good. All right, do we have any comments from the commissioners?
I do. And this has to do in regards to the election last evening. And I'd like to congratulate Ms. Paula Devine in her being the front runner. Well, I think there are some provisionals and so forth that are going to come forth, but I think we would like to congratulate you, Godspeed, and we want to wish you the best with your term as City Council in the City of Glendale.
And I'm sure we all share that sentiment. With that and with nothing else, we are adjourned.
Thanks.
So moved.